Hey guys, this is Alan from Queen Creek Tropicals Plant Nursery, and in this video I'm going to teach you exactly how to water your plant in a container. The technique that I'm about to show you today will help you. It will actually work on 99.8% of the plants out there, and this is exactly what I do here at my nursery to water the thousands of plants that we have here, and I have been using this technique for several years without any issues. So make sure you watch the whole video, guys, if you actually want to learn exactly how to do it correctly. Don't just watch 30 seconds and a minute and then blame me for not, watering your plants correctly when you didn't watch the whole thing. All right, guys, let's get started. So I broke this down into two different categories, guys. Category number one, it's gonna be those plants that actively drink water every single day, and if you don't water, they usually die very quickly. Category number two is going to be those plants that hold water, such as cactus, succulents, and believe it or not, even banana plants. So let's get started with category number one, guys. Now, before I start, guys, there's one thing you need to keep in mind, one thing that I want you to remember out of everything that I say today, and if you forget everything that I say, remember this one thing. Plants are living beings just like you and I. And most of the water that you give your plants, they use through a process called transpiration. Transpiration, it's just another word for sweating. Yes, plants sweat for the same reasons you do. If your plant is hot, it's going to sweat more and it's going to drink more water. So that one plant will dry a lot faster than another plant, even if it's the same kind, in the shade that is not sweating as much. This is why nobody can tell you exactly how often or how long to water your plants, because they need to know your plants individually. If they don't, there's no way to tell. That will be like asking you how often, how long do you drink water every day? It's going to be different every day depending on your water requirements. If you sweat, you will drink more water. If you just stay indoors, then you're not going to drink as much water. It's going to be the same with your plants. Now, with that out of the way, guys, let's get to the point, because I know you guys don't like waiting. All right, guys, here at my nursery, what we do is we follow the 50% rule during the growing season. What that means, guys, is you will wait until 50% of your plant is dry. However long it takes to go from full wet to 50% dry, that is exactly how often you are going to water this plant for that season, unless the temperatures change. That's it, guys. It's that simple. That is exactly how often you're going to water. So let's say you went to your favorite nursery and you got yourself a plant, and by some mistake they didn't tell you how to water, which it never happens, especially here in my nursery. So you go home, you have no clue what you're doing. So you watch this video and now you know what to do. 50% rule. So what you are going to do, guys, is you are going to water your plant, and then depending on the plant, if it's extremely hot outside, I would say every 6 to 12 hours you are going to go outside and you are going to check your plant. So you bring it home, you water it. Every 6 to 12 hours you're gonna go outside. Now there are several ways, guys, you can actually check your plant. The first one is, a lot of people make it complicated, but it's so easy. They want to get moisture meters and all kinds of fancy gadgets. You don't need anything, guys. Most people have 10 built-in moisture meters, or at least most people. If not, you probably have at least one. So get your finger out and you're gonna stick it in the container all the way down. And what you are doing, guys, is you're feeling for water, moisture on the tip of your finger. Your finger is gonna be long enough to go probably about halfway down. So the minute you no longer feel moisture on the tip of your finger and you're about halfway through the container, that is exactly how often you are going to water that plant. It's that simple, guys. It doesn't matter what size container you have. You can have, this one is a 5-gallon right here. You can have a 15-gallon. And let's say you have a bigger container. No big deal, guys. Just stick your finger in there and go all the way down. It's that simple. Just kick the dirt out and then just check it. It's very easy to do. That is exactly how often you're going to water. Now, let's say you don't want to get your hands dirty because, you know, you're fancy that way. Well, gardening is not for people that like to stay clean. But anyways, I'm going to teach you how to do it another way. That is, you are going to check for the weight of the pot. Let me show you. So let's say you don't want to get your hands dirty. The first thing you're gonna do, guys, is the second way to check. You're gonna water your plant and then you're gonna pick it up. Unless you're using rocks for your potting mix, which I never recommend, most of the weight of your container is going to be water weight. So you're gonna pick it up and you're gonna feel the weight, okay? You don't have to be 100% accurate. And then what you're gonna do is, every 6 to 12 hours, you're gonna go out there and you're gonna pick up your container. And you're gonna wait until you think you're about 50% lighter. It's that simple, guys. It's not that difficult. 50% lighter. Once you feel that you are about 50% lighter, then you can go ahead and water your plant. It's literally, guys, it's that easy. But you know what? It took me a few years to actually fully understand that, because nobody out there will actually show you this or teach it to you that way, because most people out there do not even understand how plants actually drink the water. Now you do, so that makes you smarter than them. All right, guys, so let's say you don't have that gift where you can actually feel the weight of the container. Maybe you're not sure. Well, guess what? Get a scale. Most people have a scale at home. So water your plant, put it on the scale, see how much it weighs. If it says 30 pounds, then every 6 to 12 hours, put it back on the scale and do not water your plant until it's about 15 pounds lighter. If it's 14 pounds, if it's 16 pounds, 17 pounds, it's no big deal, guys. Just roughly about 50%, and you are good to go. That's it. Very simple to do. Now, guys, let me explain to you why the 50% rule and why I came up with that. Most of the water, like you know, that you give your plants, they use through sweating. Now, if you didn't know, the root system of all plants, the root system of this Pakistan mulberry in this container, breathes in oxygen, just like you do. The root system of plants in the ground, even if you think they don't, they still breathe in oxygen through the root system. There are billions and billions, I don't even know the number, guys, of little air gaps inside this container. Every time that you water, the water has to go somewhere. It doesn't just magically go anywhere. What it does, it fills in all these little air gaps in the potting mix or in the soil. And in the process of doing that, it repels the water away from the root system. Now, what's happening is you're drowning your plant, which is no big deal. Plants are adapted to take some drowning for a little while. They are not gonna die in a day, in a week, and most plants not even in a month if they stay underwater. But the thing is, guys, you have to let your plants breathe in oxygen in between watering to prevent issues in the future. The way you do that is by letting the potting mix dry somewhat in between watering. So that way you know for sure 100% that you're letting your plant breathe in oxygen in between watering. This is why I came out with the 50% rule, because that assures you that your plant is getting some oxygen, but at the same time it's not going fully dry to the point where it's going to die if you don't water. This plant right here, guys, I live in extreme temperatures in the summer. If it goes fully dry one afternoon, I will lose everything. 2 afternoons, it's completely dead. I have plants here that will die in a few hours if they go dry. So this is why it's very important for you to check that plant individually. And usually all you gotta do is just, I only need to check this plant right here because all my plants have the same potting mix. If you guys want to learn more about potting mixes, I have a whole video where I explain in details what potting mix we use here, which is not anything special. But check it out if you have time. But anyway, so I checked this one plant and that will tell me how to water my 200-300 other Pakistan mulberries, because they are all about the same size, they are all in the same potting mix, and they are all in the same location, sweating about the same. So the 50% rule, guys. Now that gives you the how often rule. Now let's talk about how long do you water. Well, usually you want to water until your potting mix it's 100% saturated with water. How do you know? You're gonna have to check, because if you water your plants and you think they are wet, well, it's not always the case, especially if you went too long in between watering. Your potting mix will become hydrophobic. It will start repelling the water instead of soaking it up. It will give you the false impression that it's actually wet when in reality it's not. So what you do is you can use a finger method, or you can pick it up and weigh it and see if it's fully saturated. If it's heavy, you know you got it fully saturated. If it's not heavy, then you need to water longer. It's not usually about the quantity of water, guys. It's always about how long you water. So take that, into consideration when watering your plants in containers. Every plant is going to be different, especially if you use a different potting mix than I do. But anyways, guys, so now you know how often to water your plants. Now you know how long to water your plants. Now let's talk about the second category, guys. And those are plants that hold water, like cactus, succulents, even banana plants. So let's go take a look. Okay, guys, so I have some cacti here. These guys right here are prickly pears, and then those guys over there are Peruvian apples. I got videos on both. You guys can watch them if you want to learn, what the fruits look like and how to grow them. But anyways, these plants right here do not require watering that often. Why? Because they hold water, guys. There is water inside this cactus right here, right now. And that is the reason why it does not need to be watered that often. So if you have a plant that holds water, it depends how much water they hold. There are two rules you're gonna follow, guys. The first rule, during the growing season, it's going to be the 75% rule to 100%. Now, what that means, guys, is you're gonna wait until this right here, it's 75 to 100% dry. And then you are going to water. But when you do water, guys, you have to be very careful. Because if it's during the growing season, you can go ahead and follow the 75% to 100% rule, no problem. But if it's during the winter time, guys, it's going to be completely different. You never want your plants in containers to stay wet for too long. How long is too long? In my book, that is usually 6-7 days. If your plant is taking 6 to 7 days, guys, to dry in between watering, there are two things that are happening. The first one is going to be your potting mix. It's holding too much water. The second reason is going to be the size of your container. You put your little plant in a massive container, and now your little plant has a little root ball, and then you got a massive container with all new potting mix that's holding water around the tiny little root ball of your plant. That potting mix, it's not going to dry because the bottom of this container right here dries mainly through the root system of your plant. If there are no roots in there, then the only way for the potting mix to dry is through evaporation. During the summer, okay, fine, it may evaporate quick enough before it causes rot, but in the winter time, that is not going to happen. And then your plant is gonna rot for being wet too long. So you need to watch out for those two factors. Make sure that your potting mix does not take 6 to 7 days to dry in between watering, and make sure that your plant's not in a massive container when it doesn't need to. And that is how you water your succulents, that is how you water your cacti, and that is how you water your banana plants, guys. During the growing season here, we wait until 75% to 100% of the potting mix is dry, and then we go ahead and water. Now this cactus right here, guys, they hold so much water that even if I go days past 100% of dryness, they can still survive without water, simply because they hold a lot of water inside them that they can last a lot longer without you watering them. So cactus is no big deal, even succulents. But remember, as long as you follow the 75 to 100% rule, you are good to go. Now, let's talk about the winter, guys. The rules that I just explained to you guys applies mainly during the growing season when it's hot outside. If you are sweating outside, then it's growing season, guys. Unless you're exercising in the middle of winter. Plants don't exercise, so your plants are mainly going to sweat when it's hot outside. Now let's say it's winter time, guys. During the winter time, you want to make sure your plants dry about 75% in the category number 1. However long that takes, that's how often you're going to water. For succulents, cactus, and any other plant that holds water, you are going to follow the 100% rule plus 2 to 4 days. So what that means is once your plant is fully dry 100%, you're probably going to wait between 2 and 4 more days in between watering. And that is exactly how you water those plants during the winter time. It's that simple. Now let's say you have a plant that goes dormant in the winter time. Any deciduous plant that drops its leaves in the winter time and goes into dormancy, you are probably going to follow the same rule you do for category number 2 or any other plant that holds water, even though those plants do not hold any water. But what happens with those plants is they lower the energy consumption. They don't have any leaves to sweat, so that's why they don't really need that much water during the winter time. During the growing season, they fall under category number 1 because then they're going to have leaves and they're going to sweat just as much as any other plant during the growing season. Anyways, guys, hopefully this helps you out. Hopefully this answers all your questions about watering your plants in containers. I do this for all my plants, guys, and it did take me a long time to figure it out because all the information you find online is confusing. But now you understand how your plant actually uses that water you give it, and now you understand why some plants you need to water more often than others. And now you understand why nobody can tell you exactly how often you need to water your plant and how long. If that's the answer you're looking for, you're always going to fail because nobody can tell you that, guys, and now you know why. So if you have any questions, guys, as always, comment below. Don't forget to like the video, guys. You have to like it. These videos take forever to make, so all I'm asking from you, if you like plants, you are going to like the video and you are going to subscribe. If you hate plants, well, you can do the opposite. Anyways, guys, I will have other videos in the future come out specifically talking about how to water the many plants that we have here at the nursery. And the reason I'm making those is just because a lot of people, when they look up online how to water their plants, they're always looking for how to water this plant, how to water that plant. This is a general video, how to water all plants. And the information in those future videos, it's pretty much gonna be the same as what you just saw today. Anyways, guys, until next time.